And so when Fidel came in and asked, it's going to pop in here, when he asked this guy to sign this document about how good the medical treatment was, and he says, I'm not going to sign any document until you take care of my broken leg. And if and should you give me proper medical treatment, then I will so attest to the fact. And that Cuban just really got bent out of shape. And he had his guards take his broken leg and just start cranking it. And they had the document standing there, waiting for him to sign, and it got covered in blood and pus and everything else that would be associated with the broken leg. He finally screamed, he says, I cannot take the pain any longer, I will sign your document. That was a no-no. We will not sign documents. But he got to the point where the pain was so great that he had to do something. When they went back in to type up that document, being North Vietnamese, probably a French guy typing, it was hunt and peck. Type the guy's name out, how good medical treatment was, that I thought person. When he come back in, Fidel says, you must sign now! The guy says, no, I'm not signing. And Fidel just went berserk. He said, you told me you will sign! And I said, yes, I did. But now, I'm not, because you haven't taken care of my broken leg. Same routine. I mean, it just cranked his leg even more. The pain was beyond belief. He screamed again, I will sign your document. They went back out, typed it again. And when Fidel come back in the last time and demanded that he sign that document, he said, no, I will not sign. Fidel took the document and the two guards and left. He had defiant them. He was defiant. Up into the tremendous amount of pain where he felt, and this is a change that we made to the code of conduct when we come back after 1973, to the utmost of my ability. I will evade answering further questions to the utmost of my ability. I will make no oral or written statements against my country and its allies or harmful to their cause. General Robbie Reisner, the senior ranking officer for the Air Force, and Admiral Stockdale, the ranking naval officer in the camps, had found that the torture is so brutal and so intense, the guys were breaking all the time. And he wanted to ensure that we didn't lose any more prisoners of war to death under torture. And so they come out with a very simple rule. Maintain name, rank, date of birth, service number, until you fear loss of limb or loss of mind. And only then will you give them something. Not what they're asking. Give them something to get you out of that torturous environment that you're in. And I guarantee you it's brutal. It's painful. One of the senior ranking officers in the zoo, which is the camp just outside on the outskirts of Hanoi, had John Dramisi in Orocoville escape and made it to the Red River, distance of about 7 miles. Floated down the river to the morning, were recaptured. Fidel took each one of the senior ranking officers in each one of the cells complexes, laid them out, and beat them with a fan belt off of a heavy diesel truck. You're laying prone, and one guy on each side with a fan belt would just start flaying your body from the nape of your neck to the bottom of your feet. After that environment, most guys could not even recognize their fellow prisoner of war because of the deprivation that had taken place to his body. Lost weight. He looked like Christ at the scourging pillar. He endured that type of pain. So there's where a slight change was made in the camp, and now applies to you today, to the utmost of my ability. Yep.
Click through just there, I'm gonna drop my name.
Okay. Over on the right-hand side, we know what duty, honor, and country is all about. You did that when you took your oath to become a ROTC cadet. You're going to take it on the 13th of May, when some of you are commissioned. And you're going to test to defend and protect the Constitution of this great nation of ours against all evils, foreign and even domestic. And should you be asked, you will be willing to shed your blood and give your life in the defense of that Constitution in our great nation. Nobody else in society signs a blank check in blood like you will on your commission that says, hopefully at the end of 20, 30 plus years, you get that check back uncashed. Some have made the ultimate sacrifice. Made the supreme sacrifice, the shedding of their blood and the giving of their life, so that you might be here today, free to be in this ROTC, one of the best cadets in the United States. Leadership. You see it today within your leadership within the DEP. And what I ask you to do is, leadership is something that is not injected into you. It's not part of your DNA necessarily right out of the get-go, even though I firmly believe that someplace in certain people's DNA, leadership is there. You might see it when you're in grade school, and you go, that kid is always the one who's out front leading. Why is that? Well, it could be because he has great parents. Or maybe he has a great teacher. Or a great lifestyle. Come on in. The thing is that each and every one of you here today at Oklahoma State need to identify the traits that you see in those around you, male or female. Ranking officer, lowest person, cadet in the wing. And say, oh, I like that trait, I like that trait, I like this. You may even want to pick out some of the things that you dislike most about a certain person, so that you will always keep that in your back pocket and say, I will never do that. I won't yell at my troops. I won't get in their face and spit and sputter and scream and demoralize them. That's not a leader. By no means. You have to be able to communicate. Communications is critical, drop it down to the bottom. In the prisoner of war network that we had in Hanoi, we were texting in 1965. And I'll show you the slide that shows this text that we were using. There was a 5x5 quadratic, and it was through sound, through concrete blocks, up to the wall, listening to the sounds. We always ended with 22-12-45. And you'll take a look at it here before long, and you'll see what 22-12-45 means when you look at the quadratic. But that's how we communicated. We needed to know each and every day how our fellow prisoner of war was doing. Was he tortured? Was he beaten? Was he up or was he down? And you could tell that from those old guys by just how he tapped. If he was very gentle and timid, he was down. If he tapped robustly, he was up to there. For whatever reason, he was on the hunt. Maybe he didn't get tortured that way. whatever it was. But communications is critical. And you see from the wing leadership back there, all the way down through the bottom of the ranks here, that communications is critical. The Colonel Donkey doesn't set out the lines and the guidelines that you're going to follow, and it misinterpreted in some way and down the way, you're not going to get great praise from him when he finds out that you're doing something wrong. Communications is critical. It's critical in the prisoner of war environment. Faith is also very critical. And it doesn't make any difference what your religious preference is, and even if you don't have one, it doesn't make any difference. The thing we found, though, in the solitary confinements of Hanoi, in the outlying prisoner of war camps in the Hanoi area, that at some time when you were so low, so beaten down, so that you knew that you were going to die, the only reason that you survived was you lifted your head and your heart up and you asked for help. You asked for help. And he was there. He's always there. If you ask. Here's the tap code. And if you can see, the only thing we did is took out the K. Generally, there's not very many Ks that you use in the system. A is one tap, row one, column one. Right? 1, 1. Now, somebody find 22. Tell me what 22 is. Somebody.
G.
What's 22?
G.
Okay. G. What's 12? Say what?
B.
Bravo. What's 45? Okay. GBU, God bless you, is how we ended every one of our conversations. Okay? A very simple technique. When I got there, I was typing R, and I had to go down to 42 and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, R. Then I had to go find U. That's 45. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Are you? And then I type K for C. Are you okay? And what do I get back? I mean, it was like this. For those that are on the farm, and that ever watch chickens eat corn or wheat, I mean, they're just pecking birds where corn is, where grain's been on the long side of the road. I mean, they're just pecking it 1,000 miles an hour. They were texting at 100 words per minute, and here I was back in basic 101, finding the spots. Okay. They had, what, 6 years on it. No wonder that happened so fast. But that's how they dealt. On the other side, if we had line of sight, easier to utilize. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, V, W, X, Y, and Z. Again, we dropped out the vowels because in most cases vowels aren't going to be very important. And so if you go TH, somebody knows you're talking about the. You don't need to say THE. And if you had line of sight, your mind processes that a lot faster through your eyeball than it does through tapping in your ears of counting numbers. 22, 12, 45. But it's critical. This will apply to you in your war. And there'll be new techniques when you go to survival schools and how to communicate. This is one of the most effective means of getting information out of your American fighting man by the North Vietnamese. It's called the rope code. Everybody see him quite well? His hands are going to be shackled with the plastic ties like this. We're going to bring those arms, oh, you're too broad, you're too broad. His hands are going to end up here, but what they're going to do is take a nylon strap, in the old days, a rope, a very coarse rope, and a short sleeve shirt, and the guy will put his foot here and start cinching until these elbows touch. And if you look like this, for me, elbows don't touch. You would say that's right. The elbows just don't generally touch. But if you put enough force, and those of us that took physics know that we can get from A to B if we just apply the amount of pressure. And what that's going to do is just locate the shoulders going this way. And then as they bring the rope up and over your shoulders, there's going to be two clevises for us farm boys, or U-bolts. Our ankles are going to be in that, and they're going to take a 25-pound bar and run that through that over the top of your ankles. That rope's going to go over your shoulders. He's going to stand in the middle of your shoulders, and he's going to cinch you up into a hole. This is slightly different than what I went through, which is what I'm describing. It cuts off the blood supply and the flow here, 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 here. And you end up where you can't hardly breathe because your diaphragm's sitting up here around your upside. Pain is unbelievable. And there's this little guy. His name's called the Bug. He's got the fifth element on. He's got black glasses on. And he's sitting there at his little table. And I'm rolling around down here on the floor, and he says, "Tell me about the LGB. And I go, "I don't know what." We've been doing this for 90 days without the ropes. Always asking me about LGBs. Laser guys on, right? And I explained to him that I don't know squat about it. Even though what? I spent 2 combat tours, was in the laser squadron, knew the lasers inside and out, and I was a weapons guy. But I told him I didn't know squat. Well, after going through this routine a while, I found that I may lose loss of this or loss of limbs due to the blood supply being cut off. And I made a combat decision. And each and every one of you will make a combat decision whether you are in combat or not at some time in your life. And that decision was, I can say something and yet say nothing, and he will never know the difference. And that's exactly what I did. And it was very, very effective in that I told stuff that was totally impossible, but they didn't know any different. The thing is if I would have continued to lay there in that ball, they had a fan belt over on the side, and they were going to use that fan belt to what? Further induce pain. And I knew that if that was the case, I might lose this. And if I lost control of that, I might actually say something that is true. They could be damaging to my fellow warfighters in the 433rd Attack Fire Squad. And I would not allow myself to do that. That's a command decision that I made to say something rather than nothing. Each and every one of you are going to find yourself in that same spot. I just ask that you be brave, be strong, and be defiant. Up to including torture. Be defiant. The first words of torture came out when Admiral Denton had been beaten and tortured to make a press conference. And as he was sitting at the table, reading his written statement that was prepared, his eyes were blinking. The press didn't catch it. The people at the Pentagon didn't catch it. But they wondered, why was he constantly blinking? If you look there, his eyes doesn't look to be watering. And one airman in the bowels of the Pentagon finally says, he's blinking torture. torture in Morse code. And that's the first time that our people in the Pentagon knew that your American fighter man was being tortured by the North Vietnamese. A great American hero.